Welcome to the Sports Car Lessons Podcast. I'm your host, Big Ken. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on a streaming service, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. You'll be notified whenever I drop any new content. Welcome. Thanks for being here. As promised, a complete recap of the 2024 National in Cleveland. Now, I'm going to I have just a ton of stuff, and I like to keep these to 30 minutes. And I probably could have made 2 episodes out of this, but I've already done 3 episodes, so I think 4 episodes is probably gonna be more than enough, so I'll stick to, just the important stuff and try to keep it, within that 30-minute range. Um, at the beginning, I need to go back to June really to start this because, a lot of us lost our tables back in June. And a lot of people were saying, forget them. I'm not going. I canceled my hotel. I'm canceling my flights. I'm not going. Guys that lost their table. And you know what? I was just as frustrated as they were. But at the end of the day, does the national care? If I cancel my hotel or my flight or I don't come and I boycott, I'm not coming. Um, would they miss me? Doubtful. You know, absolutely not. They're not gonna miss me. Um, so at the end of the day, who would I be hurting if I said I'm not going and I kept going on and on about, you know, how I felt? The only one I'm hurting is myself, right? So at no time did I ever not plan on attending. I just shifted gears, got a table at the SoCo Expo, and I planned to walk the national for the first time, right? Just make the best of it. A lot of people reached out to me, um, really wanted to know how I felt about walking, and would I'd rather was it better walking or would I rather be behind the table selling? For me, not even close in this case. Give me some cards, a case, and put me behind the table. That's where I'm most comfortable. And a lot of this was a learning experience for me. And I talked about it. That's why I wanted to do daily things because things that I'm going into this show thinking I've done all these shows all year long, and I've walked a lot of shows, this year, planning and expecting the same things, and it was completely different. I mean, this show and showing up to walk this show was completely different than any of these local shows I do, any of these mid to large shows that I go to, because most of them are 1 day and 2 day, right? So for everybody involved, right? The dealers need to start selling immediately because if it's a 1 day show, you've only got, the 8 hours or however long the show is for, or if it's 2 days, right? You've only got 2 days, and Saturday we know is always the best day, right? So you got to jump in, you got to start selling right away, and everything happens quickly. Here is 5 days spread over 5 days. And people don't just come for one. Some people come for 1 day, they drive in, but most people, the percentage of people, they're coming in for multiple days. So most people do what I do, right? You walk the room, you look for, cards you want, you make notes, you make mental notes, you look at the prices, you may ask day 1 or day 2 how much, and keep that in mind, especially if, a lot of times, like for me, I said, "Hey, do you have any room on that?" And most of the time the first couple of days was, "No, I don't have any room." That's, I feel that's the best price I could offer you that card at right now today. Um, so that put me a little bit out of my comfort zone, but I knew, right? I knew I'm going to be there for a few days, so I'll keep walking the room. And you know what? The exercise was great. I mean, all those days of walking, it was the exercise was great. Um, and I did walk it. I walked it for 4 days, giving you daily recaps of everything that I was seeing out there. Some of the things I talked about being bad, right? Getting the VIP packets on Wednesday, right? That was a crap show. Like an hour and a half, what felt like a basement, and just those Disney World lines back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, where you really didn't know where it was going to end. and I know they did their best. I felt like there was one person in that room handing out packets, but when I got in there, I think there was like 10 or 12 people in that room handing out packets. But, it was slow. It was slow moving. And, I remember the last couple nationals showing up, being able to see the booth where I was going to get my VIP tickets. The line maybe lasted 10, 15 minutes tops. It was in, it was out, and I was on my way. Right. So, this to me, I'll put that under the bad category. Driving in and out of the show, right? And I don't know what the total count of attendees was, but honestly, I just don't think they expected the amount of people that came. I know I read on those websites about they were charging for parking for people to come in. And that's why, more importantly, I knew I was driving. That's why I bought the VIP so I could get free parking every day. Um, and it turned out I don't think they could charge. I think if they were charging people to park, people would still be in line, right? It was just unbelievable, the traffic, getting in and out of there, um, driving in and driving out, trying to get out of there when you wanted to leave too. Wasn't as bad as getting in, but it wasn't it wasn't that good either, right? And again, I think, the location of this, it's not like Chicago where you can get a hotel across the street or within a walking distance and walk down. Everybody, even if you flew in, you needed to be Ubered or a rental car or something to get there because there was zero. There was nothing close by. Um, the bathrooms, right? Again, the bat. I mean, I spoke with a couple of the dealers, and a couple of them said, "Look, the dealers, we have our own bathroom, over and a couple of people pointed it out to me. And day one, I kind of walked over in that direction, and somebody said, "Nah, you need a dealer badge. You can't, to get in here." And I think by day two, day three, nobody was even there. Like people could go in, and that started to even get lines, right? And I talked about finding, it easier to go downstairs to the VIP area to use the bathrooms down there, but at neither of the last two nationals, uh, was there ever lines like this just to go to the bathroom. So that was certainly could have been something to be improved on. And I'm sure, again, maybe they didn't expect this many people. Maybe who knows? But I mean, the bathrooms are the best. It's not like they can add more, right? The food and drink lines, like I did not stand, and so I really can't comment. I listened to a lot of people say, just standing in line for half an hour to get something to eat. Um, I never bought stood in any lines. I never got any drink or food there. Um, I stayed, in an extended stay America, so I had a kitchen, a full fridge, a stove. I was going back making my lunch, making breakfast, making lunch, bringing food with me, putting, uh, drinks and snacks in my backpack, and something I talked about in my top 10 list. I did not want to go and spend time standing in line to buy any type of food or drink. I'd rather spend that time walking around looking at cars. There's no way I want to go there and waste my time standing in line. Uh, I think the long lines to get in, for the bathroom, for the food and drinks. Um, I think you're going to find that anywhere, right? I mean, if we go to a big event somewhere, if we go to a sporting event, you go to a baseball game or a hockey game or a football game or a fair, a state fair, something like that, right? There's traffic coming in, there's traffic going. Even you go to the fireworks, right? And 4th of July fireworks, right? There's traffic coming in, traffic going out. You run into lines at an event, standing in line at halftime or whatever to between periods to go get a drink or some food or things like that. You're standing in line. So, I mean, I think they probably did it a little better at those events than this event, but I think they were figuring it out as they went along. I know the traffic got easier as the days went on, pulling in and out. Um, there was no relief on the bathrooms, right? I mean, you just couldn't do anything about that. And I don't know about the lines. Like I said, I never really stood in line, but you know what? I think they were figuring it out as they went along, and I honestly, I would say they did the best they could. I mean, it could have been worse. It absolutely could have been worse. Um, I mean, you're in the middle of the summer. I mean, and we know what it's like when the air conditioners, we experienced that last year when the air conditioners, stopped working. And I know here that even though they had the air conditioning in the room, they were rolling in these portable air conditioners that they were lining up around the outsides of the room too. So they were adding more air conditioners as the days went on, right? As I would say it started to heat up, but at no time did I ever feel overheated or hot there. The internet was spotty, right? They had, I mean, I should say the cell phone signal was there was like none. So when you got there, anywhere in the building, you had to connect to their Wi-Fi, and I just think their Wi-Fi was just so overwhelmed that it was working and then it would stop working. It was one of those, let me reset my phone. If you remember Atlantic City, all of a sudden it would just stop working. You could turn your phone off, back on again, get a fresh connection. You were good for 20 minutes or half an hour before it went out again. And there were times that I just had to walk outside if I had to make a call or if I had to message somebody. And sometimes I walk outside and somebody would message me. And then I started to realize, I don't know if this message just came through or it was sent 30 minutes ago and I'm just getting it. When you're trying to meet up with people and make arrangements. So, I can't beat that up either, right? I mean, I'm sure it was just overwhelmed with the amount of people. And it's not like, when people go to an event like that, of course they're taking pictures, they're texting their friends and they're, searching and doing this other stuff. But we know at a card show, everybody's there just looking up comps, and it's just constant, constant, constant. And I'm sure, the network was definitely overwhelmed a little bit. Um, I talked about I believe it was day 2 video of something just being off about the show that I just couldn't quite put my finger on it. And some listeners have reached out and said they felt the same thing. Others said, "I don't know what you're talking about. I thought the show was great." But a few of them had mentioned, and it was funny because I didn't even think of this. I talked about this, right, before I went out there, but I didn't think about this, and the more I thought about it, I said, I think they were onto something here. Um, that they felt that the booths had cards that were in cases that really belonged in singles boxes, that people were spreading them out. They were adding more cases and putting cheap cards, singles that should have been, the one or $5 or maybe even a $10 box, that they were filling cases up to fill up space on the table to make the tables appear more full. Now, I commented a lot while I was there, like pointing out to people that you would have never seen, like people putting booths out that there were, I mean, putting cases out on their tables that there was about 1 or 2 feet between the cases, and there was like a foot or two extra on the ends. In previous nationals, those cases would have been pushed together. There would have been 4 more cases and 4 more people in that booth, right? Selling. So maybe that's, maybe that was a little bit of it. Maybe, not having as much great inventory as we're used to out there. And I know that people were just making up buying signs, just putting up signs, like like, hey, give me that piece of cardboard. Let me use this, borrow this marker, and write buying, and they were just sticking it out because they were running out of inventory. People just did not show up. The dealers did not show up with enough inventory. I don't know if they were expecting to buy, you know, at greater amounts when they got there, and maybe that's not what was happening, or they did buy and sell the cars that they had, but people were definitely running out of inventory and just saying, I need to start buying, or my cases are just getting empty. I'm getting, I'm selling them out. Um, so, uh A lot of what we talked about, or what I've talked about before going in, is kind of a lot of the things I saw, people not having enough inventory, space not being utilized like it used to be, and quality of the cards. I mean, any higher end cards were way overpriced. Way overpriced. Like if there was a comp on a card of $2,000 or better, that was about six or $700, maybe even $1,000 price overpriced of what the actual comp was on the cards. And I noticed a lot of the Caitlin Clark cards, that I'm looking at recent comps, say 150, 175, and people have them in their cases for $500 and $600. And I don't know if they expected to sell them, and I don't know if people were coming in and buying at that price. Maybe they were. I'm not sure, but um, the higher the value of the car, the more it was way overpriced. And there are people I show up and they have a sign on here, this case not for sale. So somebody's got a case full of cards with a sign in it saying none of these cards are for sale. They just wanted me to come up and look at their cards, right? They wanted everybody to be able to see their cards, but the cards aren't for sale. So, and I commented, I'm like, you got a sign there, not for sale. He goes, yeah, I'm not going to sell the cards, but people just keep asking me the price. So I just thought it'd be better if I put the sign in. That's okay. All right. That's you. Um, I noticed, I mean, I was running into a lot of people on Wednesday and Thursday that I knew usually set up or, have had a table in the past or lost their spot. Right. And, we had the conversation, man, this stinks, right? No space, this, that. Then Friday and Saturday, I'd be walking around, then all of a sudden I see them on the other side with a case and their cards out, right? In a booth. And I start in more than one. I probably saw 5 or 6 people in that, right? So by Friday, Saturday, definitely Saturday, me and that the place was just mobbed on Saturday. And I started seeing, these people, behind the booth selling with behind the case. All of a sudden, 4 more cases showed up in this booth and 4 more people back there selling. It was apparent, some of the booth owners are willing to risk losing their booth if that's the case, if that's, the consequences to have that by letting people jump in for a day or two, with space. And one of them said it wasn't cheap. It wasn't cheap, for me to get in here, but I think it's going to pay off. Um, and most dealers I talked to, I think one I talked to said that they felt that some secret shoppers had come around on Wednesday and Thursday. But most that I talked to said, look, nobody's ever came around. Nobody asked about, the dealer badge or anything else. And um, the guys that were behind the booth had the dealer badge with no name sticking out on it. Right. So I wish, I wouldn't have wanted to. I was about to say I wish I could have been one of the few that were able to jump in there, but I wouldn't have wanted to be the reason, number one, that somebody lost their booth. And number two, I wouldn't want my name put out there like that, to be made example of, because then I could never get a future booth at the National, right? As it was, I do every year. I fill one out online for a booth, and then when I get there, I find the representative, and I talk to her, and we have a great conversation every year. And I say, look, I'm still waiting, and you remember me, and I'm putting my name on there, and maybe next year will be the year I'll get in. And she did say to me, that this is the reason we cracked down this year, because the waiting list is so long and no one ever gets off the waiting list. Right. So one of the things we're doing with the crackdown is taking table booths away and changing things up. Hopefully people give up their booths so we can start backfilling some of the people on the wait list, start letting some new people in. So, fingers crossed that, I'll get a call next year. The good, just being able to meet up with so many people, by far the best part of the national, right? The best part. And I say this every time. It's so great to go to a show and you know, people just walk up to me. I'd be walking by and people be like, "Hey, Big Ken, any pickups?" And I'll look, I'll be like, "Hey, how you?" Like I have no idea. Like I know most people know who I am and they see me, but but they do stop. They introduce themselves, and we have a great little conversation. And I think that's great. I appreciate that. Um, I felt the room in Cleveland really, really had a nice flow to it. Really had a nice flow to it. I knew where I was at all times why I was there at that show. Last year in Chicago, I had no idea where I was. I was lost the whole time. And when I set out from my booth to go find somebody, I got a booth number and I wandered and I wandered and I'm looking up and I'm looking for numbers. And if you've ever tried to go find a booth number at any nat, it's so hard because only about half the people have their sign so you could actually see what booth number. And you know, you're walking down this aisle and you see a number close and you're like, I got to be close. And you could wander around 10 more minutes before you actually find the booth number. So just being able to know where I am in the room, just a nice flow. Um, and I broke up both rooms into halves, right? So I was able to hit every table 3 times throughout my 4 days. Um, just being able to come in and say, all right, I'm going to concentrate on this half of the room and just going up and down, up and down, up and down, seeing every case in that one there. Right. And then when I come back, or if I go for lunch and I come back, now I'll start on the other side of the room and then I'll go to there were 2 rooms there, but it definitely had a nice flow. And I liked knowing where everything was. So when I had some meetings with people at different booths, I knew exactly where I was going. I said, I know that where that is in the back over here or in this room or that room, and I could walk right over. I wasn't lost by any means. And I had said to somebody, they said they asked me, not a hobbyist, saying, what did you do out there? And I said, well, I went to the show and I walked this room for 4 days. And they said, did it take 4 days to walk it? I said, no, I was able to walk it 3 times in 4 days. And they said, "Why would you do that?" And it's important. And I had to explain to them, it's important. You got to keep going back because new inventory shows up in the case. Um, a- in this case, new dealers were showing up with all new inventory in these booths, right? So just because you walked around on the first day and you looked around, um, you can go back 2 hours and do the same thing and see all new inventory in those cases. So it's important for me just to keep constantly going and knowing like which dealers, making notes of which dealers had particular, the cards, maybe not the card, but the cards that I'm looking for, and to keep going back because they're more apt to be buying that particular type of card to put in their cases. I talked about it being hard to buy on Wednesday and Thursday. Some people commented 100%. And, some said, hey, I had no troubles. I had no troubles buying. When I buy at shows, I like to get some kind of a deal. I like to be, 85 to 90%. Not saying I'm going to get there all the time, but that's where I'd like to be. And on Wednesday and Thursday, I mean, dealers were at 120% mostly. And for buying, they were offering 75% on cards. After a few times, like pulling my cards out, I'm like, I'm not even gonna waste my time pulling my cards out because these offers are coming in so low. And I'm not buying at 120%. Um, if I found a card that I'd been looking for forever, that never comes up, and I said, okay, maybe I'll do it on a card like that, but I didn't find any of those cards. I didn't find anything I was willing to pay over comps on. And interestingly enough, some of the dealers I showed my cards to on Wednesday and Thursday, um, and they were just offering me ridiculously low prices. When they saw me coming back again on Friday and Saturday, they'd be like, "Hey, you still have the Caitlin Clark or the Angel Reese or this and that? Yeah, I'm buying anything you got. If you still have any Caitlin Clark or Angel Reese or Cameron Brink, whatever you got, pull out Paige Beckers, pull out because I'll buy it all from you. I'm paying strong." And I'd be like, "Yeah, well, that would have worked out on Wednesday and Thursday, but by now, either I sold the cards or traded them away." And I understood that those cards were just like fire. People were just such liquid cards. Just people were just selling them like crazy. And it's amazing that I'm sitting over at Soo Expo at night with a whole case with those players, and nobody's buying them. Zero. I couldn't sell one card out of there of the women's basketball, which was just amazing to me that a show during the day they can't keep any of them in their case, and I'm sitting with a case full at night and I can't move one. I Nobody was even interested in them. Uh, yeah, so Friday, Saturday, I was selling my cards for a much better percentage, getting a little bit of a deal on the other side as well, either selling a card or card and trade, trading card and cash. I was definitely able to make some deals, so I was happy about that. Um, I feel people save their money to go to the national, right? And I know there's most of the people in the hobby are hitting shows regularly, but I know there's people that this may be their one show of the year that go out there and there's specific cards they're looking for, or they may do a handful of cards, but this is the biggest show they do. And I feel they save their money all year. And uh, I think the first few days the dealers are selling to people who are either not worried about recent sales or comps, or who are just willing to pay whatever the price tag is to get the cards that they want to buy. And I think by day 3, 4, 5, when a card has been sitting in the case, dealers are more willing to move, to make a deal, to get those deals done. And this was something I experienced firsthand, right? Because I've always been behind the table, right? So when I show up, I'm selling like I'm selling at a weekend show or a Saturday show. I'm looking at the prices. The traditional 10% over on my sticker prices, throwing them in the case, and you know willing to be at, or just going below, because most people are going to want it at 90% or 95%. And that was my mentality all the time. And this was the first time I walked around and I was amazed that people were so high, number one, and two, people were buying. And that may even change it up for next year a little bit for me. Maybe I should go a little stronger on my prices the first couple days if I set up, and then relax after a few days. I don't know. I'm just saying that, but it was a lesson learned for me. I was amazed to see how this happened, how it was going from Wednesday to Thursday to Friday to Saturday, how these changes were happening. And I'm sure it's something that happens all the time, right? It's been happening for years at this show. It's just I've never really got out and walked it. And when I'm running to somebody's booth, I know either I know the card I'm going to pick up, or I know what they have and I know what the prices are. And even if the price is 150 and I know it's $100 card, I'll say, "Hey, you do 90 on this, or 95, or whatever." And most people know that it's a pretty strong offer, even though their price tag is way over comps. So I really hadn't had to deal with that much. So it's definitely one thing I definitely learned this year. One thing I thought about too coming back is, if I don't have a booth or a table next year, do I want to come in on Tuesday or Wednesday? I mean, I'm thinking if I don't have space, if I'm not setting up, I think I just might come and do a Thursday to Sunday. Right? Just try to come in and, start hitting the trade nights on Thursday, and shop the room Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday too, because I know Sunday a lot of people head home on Sunday, so it may be a good day. I know last year I was there on Sunday and I did a lot of shopping the last day, and just a thought. I always say thoughts are running through my head as I'm driving home, right? The hotel I stayed in, hey, it wasn't great, right? It was okay. The price was half the cost of Chicago last year. Um, but the hotel was 8 minutes, right, from the IX Center. And it was a really pleasant drive through this recreational area that every time I left the hotel, the ways took me a different way all the time. And what I started realizing was in this area, this recreational area, there was these gates that some days these are open and some days they're closed and something else is open. So it took me a different way each time, over bridges, around a river, over a river, right? So it was just kind of a cool, peaceful ride each way every day, and it was kind of cool. I enjoyed that. Soo Expo, I did 3 nights. I sold women's soccer, not a lot. I sold no women's basketball, but I sold a ton of football. The room was crowded. The room was crowded the whole night, and it was a 6 to midnight every night at 11:30. They'd be flipping the lights, kind of just letting people know we're getting ready to end. Um, I got to meet a bunch of I mean, I told people where to find me. A bunch of listeners came over. I got to meet a lot of people over there, talk to them, came in to say hello, introduce themselves. Being there till midnight and then back up early the next day to hit the national, I was getting tired. I was really getting worn down. And when you leave a show at midnight, we're about 20 minutes away, and each night, Craig and Carmine from Crosstown Cardboard. So Carmine was my roommate, and Craig had a room at the same hotel. So I would drive these guys back. They get the shuttle over, and I would drive them back. And of course, we would hang out, and we basically had a little charcuterie board that we set up every night when we got back, with a late night cocktail, just to kind of go over the whole day. Were like 3 kids all going through our cases, pulling out our, what we got, what we sold, talk about the day, just breaking the day down, and before we, getting ready to go to hit the hay and get up and do it all over again the next day. So that was definitely that was really something cool for me. I talked about having some regrets on the last episode at the end, and I think one of my regrets, committing to SoCo for 3 nights, was a regret. Even though the show was great and it's where I did mostly all my big deals, I felt I missed out. I had some FOMO, um, not being able to bounce around to some trade nights on some of the different nights. Um, there was so much going on. I was getting so many messages from people who were at different trade nights, sending pictures of the trade night itself, and then pictures of their pickups or some deals that were going down. Um, yeah, I was thinking, I wish I would have left time to be able to hit some of those trade nights. It was something that I did last year, something we did last year after the show. We would go grab dinner, and then we would start hitting different hotels and hitting the trade nights. And I really felt I missed that this year. I committed to be somewhere, so I stayed all 3 nights and stayed till midnight. Um, but I think even if they were to have this next year, I would try to, not commit to every night uh, in one place. I know the trade night for the National was insane, similar to last year. Long lines, a crowded room, and a lot of people complaining. It was a stank fest. A lot of deals got done, I heard. but there's nothing worse than like I said earlier, a crowded room in the middle of the summer. um, when I was packing up Sunday morning, I felt I missed out on some opportunities. I committed to things. I didn't completely think them through. So, lesson learned for me looking forward to next year, and how I'm going to plan that week out next year. Another regret I had was not finding someone to travel with back and forth to Cleveland, right? 8.5 hours each way. Most people I knew were flying, and not, they weren't staying as long as I was. So it didn't work out. I tried to, see if somebody wanted to either drive out with me or drive home with me if they wanted to fly on the opposite end. Um, but it never really worked out. So, next year I'll be flying back in, to Chicago. Um, some of my first thoughts, looking ahead to next year, as far as inventory goes, I'm hoping, I'm hoping the WNBA will be as strong as it is now, and as I think it will be. And I could be right there on the ground floor of that, and something I really enjoy. The cards I really enjoy. I follow the teams. I watch the games. So uh, definitely, I'm hoping to be a big part of that. And I'm going to roll right back in with football next year. Um, I had a lot of women's soccer. And I think this year, if I would have set up at the national with all that soccer I had, I probably would have moved a good percentage of it. I know I would have. I know I would have moved a lot more than I did. Unfortunately, I wasn't there. Unfortunately, I didn't sell that much at SoCo, so I'm left with a ton of inventory of women's soccer. I spent the last 3 days listing. Um, I think 90 or so cards so far. I think I have another 30 or 40 cards to put up. I've already put up 90 cards, on eBay. It's during the Olympics right now. The women are doing well. So I'm hoping a lot of them will move. I mean, who knows how many will move. Um, but I did add, on my Instagram link tree, I did add a button for my eBay listing. So if you're interested to see what I have listed on eBay, on Instagram, you can go to my profile, click on the link tree, and you'll see a button labeled eBay listings. Just click on that, and that'll bring you to all the listings I have on eBay. If you're interested in any of those cards there, um, certainly, shoot me a message. Uh, After all the football I sold before the national that I was trying to move when I was at Chantilly, I still had a ton left. Um, and I'm glad I did, because by far it was the hottest sport for me to move. Um, so no more great ideas next year. And if I come up with any, tell me to stop, right? No more great ideas next year. It's going to be mostly football for next year. Stay in my lane, right? I don't know how. Maybe I should go back and listen to my own episode. So nothing left now but to share with you my pickups, and of course, maybe a few stories behind them. Um, so I think some of these you may have already. I know I shared some of them along the way. So I've got 5 Beckers cards here. First one, this is just the base first Bowman pink PSA 10. And I have 2 singles here that I purchased pretty cheap, that same card, but as the story goes, they were both PSA 10s. The lady bought them, had somebody crack them out because she was going to get them autographed, never made the trip to Connecticut to get them autographed, so they went up for sale. I didn't buy them like they were PSA 10s. I bought them. They were just like base cards. Um, Happy to have them. This here is another Bowman U, Paige Becker's. It's orange, numbered to 25, PSA 10. And this is also the Bowman U, Paige Becker's Prospects autograph. This is green, PSA 10. This one's numbered to 99. Some other women's cards here. Sabrina Ionescu, Revolution Auto. I know I've shared this one. Bowman U, Cameron Brink, Prospect Autograph. This is PSA 10. Bowman U, Juju Watkins, Prospect Autographed. This is PSA 9. So I talked about getting a black box while I was out there. Somebody helped me out to get a black box. So I took that black box to Soko, and I just threw it on my case. And I ended up making a deal with a guy who ended up doing part cash, part cards and trade. So these were the 3 cards that I picked up from him. This is an RPA rookie patch auto, certified Garrett Wilson mirror gold, numbered to 25, PSA 9. 2017 Prestige, Patrick Mahomes. This is BGS 95. It's a Mahomes rookie. And this is a 2019 Select Purple Prism Patrick Mahomes. And this card is number 1 of 75. And I also said that I had moved my Joe Burrow rookie contenders red ticket, red zone rookie auto. And these were the 2 cards that I traded with cash. This is the 2020 Donruss Optic Jalen Hurts autographed hollow, numbered to 99. And the 2020, these are both rookies. 2020 Panini Prism Jalen Hurts auto neon green pulsar, also PSA 10. So those were my pickups. I'm happy to have, like I said, I'm happy to have these Hurts, knowing that I'm going to be my next show I'm setting up at Fishtown in Philly. So I know it's still before the season starts. So depending on, how hot he is and where his prices are at, does it make sense to sell then, or list them high and hope for the best? Who knows? We'll see where we're at when we get there. I'm a little disappointed that we've got, and I talked about this, the Fanatics and East Coast National and Fishtown show, that they're all the same weekend. Here we are going into this weekend now and the following weekend. And I said, like, if these guys could have gotten together, they could have done one show a weekend, right? East Coast this weekend, Fanatics next weekend, Fishtown the week, something like that. But instead they put 3 shows all in one weekend. So I may hit a local show here, the Enfield show in Connecticut on Saturday, but besides that, that's really my only option. My other option is to go to New Jersey, and it's 2 hours each way. So I think I've had enough driving last week back and forth to Cleveland. I think I'll stay local this weekend. So that's all I have for you. That is it. Another great year at the National for me. I mean, I said to somebody else, already, I mean, it can't, how was it? What do you mean, how was it? It's a National. It's great. it's like Disney World for sports card collectors, right? You got to do it. You got to go. And I would not go. I wouldn't cancel a trip for very many things out there. So It was a great time. So that's all I have for you. I will be back Monday with a brand new episode. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And if you like what you hear, please definitely subscribe. And most importantly, tell a friend and spread the word. And until next time, take care of yourselves and everyone around you.